So thanks everybody for tuning in. Today we have an interesting topic, and I've invited my good friend Pete Adams back to the podcast or the YouTube cast. And today we're going to be talking about the Satan shoes and this controversy that Lil Nas X and MSCHF got into with Nike. So Pete, welcome, and thank you for lending us your insight today.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate you having me.
So just to bring everyone kind of up to speed on what's going on here, the Satan shoes were a series of custom shoes that were from Nike Air Max 97s that are very well known in the kind of the sneakerhead world, right? And Lil Nas X, who is a rapper who's, for separate reasons, a very interesting character. Lil Nas X and MSCHF, which is kind of an art house or art collective or art group, they took these Nike Air Max 97s and they customized them in certain ways to make them Satan shoes, right? And that included things like there's a big old pentagram on the front of the shoe. There's red ink everywhere. There is on the back of the shoe there's a big old 666, which is of course the number of the devil. There is sort of also very disturbingly there's apparently actual human blood in the air bubble underneath the heel of the shoe. The price of the shoes was, I think, $1,018, which is a reference to Luke 10:18, which is a very kind of Satan-y Bible verse talking about, Satan fell from heaven and etc. So all kinds of really interesting stuff going on here. And Nike recently sued these guys for trademark infringement and a few other claims, including, I think, false designation of origin, trademark dilution, unfair competition, kind of threw the book at these guys. So I wanted to ask Pete on to kind of, I don't know trademark law very well at all. So, Pete, what on earth is going on here?
Well, in this case, Nike, there was a very strong reaction and a lot of marketing behind this product. So social media had like a storm reaction to the sale of these shoes, and as a result,
unsurprisingly, entirely unsurprisingly.
So people on social media were calling, in an age of cancel culture, people are like, "Hey, we need to cancel Nike. Nike is associated with Lil Nas X, and they collaborated together to create these satanic shoes." And so that was part of, I guess, there were also marketing. They had Lil Nas X holding the shoe, and so it appeared that it was directly associated with Nike, and that Nike was working together to profit from these satanic shoes. But that wasn't the reality at all. The reality was, the company MSCHF, collaborating with Lil Nas X, purchased the shoes, and then they modified them, and then they sold 666 of them in less than a minute. And Nike had nothing to do with it whatsoever. So they were just originally Nike shoes, as you said, and then it was an artistic, modification of it. However, there's some evidence of confusion, at least on social media, and that people thinking that these were actual Nike modified products, and Nike had created these satanic shoes, even though you could only purchase them on a specific Satan.com website. It was a specific website where you could buy these shoes. You couldn't buy them on Nike stores at all, or on Nike retailers. But Nike, in order to protect its brand, a lot of times you have to file a suit. Even if you may not win on every issue, you end up, filing a suit to at least make it publicly known, hey, we're protecting our brand. We're worried that this can damage us significantly. So among purchasers of these limited edition, there's highly, not a strong likelihood of confusion from the consumers who are buying it. They're like, okay, these are limited edition. We're going to buy these for collectors. But in terms of social media, there may have been a little bit of confusion. So that you've got that issue of likelihood of confusion. In terms of marketing, apparently the box was different. The shoes were significantly modified. The only thing that resembled it was obviously it still had the Nike swoosh, the trademark, the famous mark. So on the likelihood of confusion, it would have been difficult for Nike to prevail on that. But you've also got trademark dilution. And trademark dilution, you're worried about, in this case, tarnishment. You're worried about being associated with a negative, for a negative reason. So, for example, Satanism, there's a large chunk of the population that would be offended by that. And so they're already calling for it to be canceled. And, they were trying to go after Nike and hurt their reputation significantly. Now, one of the reasons that MSCHF created this product, Lil Nas X, was they claimed, oh, this is more like a satire. This is a parody. We're doing this as a reason to show that, hey, Nike is a company that will do business with anyone. So they actually claimed that they were doing that for a reason as a satire. The only problem is it wasn't obvious that it was a satire, because you look at all the people that reacted to it thinking it was associated with Nike. So that defense from MSCHF's point of view would have been a little bit difficult. Another issue would have been what you and I discussed previously. It was like first sale doctrine. The first sale doctrine, in this case, it'd be an exception because the shoes were modified significantly. So if you're just taking a product and reselling it, you're protected from trademark infringement. If you're like, hey, you're going to mark it up. Let's say you buy in bulk, a bulk order of Nikes, and then you mark up the price and resell them. Well, you didn't do anything to modify it. And so it's not even going to hurt the reputation. It's going to have the same quality of the shoe. You can resell that with no issues. But in this case, they modified it, and there was a chance of damage to the brand, to the Nike brand, as being associated potentially by the public with Satanism.
So just for the folks out there who may not understand what the first sale doctrine is, right? This basically protects like sneakerheads and resellers and that kind of thing. That, if
exactly.
I buy
collectors, you buy and resell to make a profit.
Right. So it can have the Nike trademark all over it. And because I'm a reseller, because I am not the first sale, then I'm protected. I'm not considered to be, using that trademark because it's the original good. But that's to be distinguished from, if I take the original trademark good and modify it, then that may not be, trademark infringement, but, we're talking about dilution and harming the brand and all that kind of thing, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And if you had modified it to make it unsafe as well, and in this case, it was just, the ornamental appearance of the shoes. So they weren't worried about people getting injured wearing the shoes, playing basketball. People were buying these shoes as a collector item, not using them for the utility of it. And that would probably distinguish it from car modifications.
So like Lingenfelter or Saline or whatever, where I buy, I buy Corvettes in bulk or Mustangs in bulk or whatever. And my whole business is I soup them up. I slap a supercharger on it, the headers, new shaft, new better suspension, better tires, better exhaust, blah, blah, blah. And I, triple the horsepower and making this crazy screaming fast car, right? That's not, or presumably that's not dilutive, because I'm not harming the Corvette brand or the Chevrolet brand or the Ford brand or the Mustang brand, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I would say if there were instances where product quality control diminishes. So let's say you resell it and a lot of people start getting in accidents, and it appears that the vehicles were unsafe. Then in that case, maybe Chevy may have an argument that, hey, you're modifying these vehicles and it still has our brand name on it, and people are getting harmed from it.
Right. So if you bought, say, a bunch of Corvettes and you took all the airbags out to save weight or something like that, right?
Yeah,
then they would probably have sort of I mean, it would go to safety instead of appearance and being associated with Satanism. And I
Yeah.
guess you could buy a Corvette and, custom draw pentagrams all over it and draw pictures of the devil and stuff. I guess that would be a little bit closer to this.
Yeah, they call that the exception in product quality controls. So in this exception, it protects a trademark's right to control the quality of goods. So when you're reselling a product and you're modifying it, if you make it unsafe, then the original trademark owner has no control over the quality of that product. So at that point, it's out in the market and people may be perceiving it as, hey, look at all these vehicles getting these accidents. Look at all these, people being harmed. These are all Corvettes.
Right.
Hey, that's Chevy. What's going on with the Chevy manufacturing?
Yeah, where it's really not them. It's really this third party that's doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So there were a couple of other shoes that these MSCHF people have released before, right? So these are the Satan shoes, and they previously did some Jesus shoes, some walk on water shoes, where they had instead of human blood being in the air bubble underneath the heel area, I think they had holy water in this one underneath the heel area, and so presumably in that case, there's not going to be. I wouldn't think there would be a tremendous amount of damage, certainly not in the United States, done with their brand of selling the Jesus shoes. I mean, maybe if they went into like Saudi Arabia and were marketing the Jesus shoes very heavily, that maybe you would have a claim there.
Yeah.
But I mean, do you tend to agree with that? Is it really just associated with the fact that Satanism has a negative connotation to like a vast majority of the population in kind of the Western world? Is that what's driving the?
I would agree to it with that, and also we didn't hear much about it in social media. I mean, there wasn't nearly as big of a reaction. So, Nike is responding to the public, to the court of public opinion on these brands, on these shoes being modified. So when there was 25, I think there were only 24 shoes as well. It was a very, very limited collection, and it wasn't marketed at the same level of the Satanic shoes, where it was all over the internet. And so people don't have this negative connotation, as you say, with Jesus shoes necessarily. Like, okay, maybe in another country, but not in the United States.
Right. So why bother with a lawsuit when there's like 5 people that were offended by it?
Yeah, exactly. It was just, is that significantly harming the Nike brand through like trademark dilution and tarnishment? Their argument would probably be not worth filing a lawsuit.
Right. Okay. I think that's probably, I think, a pretty good overview for folks who are sort of curious about what's going on. Pete, you have anything else to add? Anything that anybody's kind of wondering about this?
No, I mean, I would just say, you're definitely able to take a product and modify it, but it's like if you market it in such a way that it's going to have, especially in a case of a famous mark like the Nike swoosh or
Right.
Nike symbol, then you've got that issue of dilution. Trademark dilution only exists for famous marks anyway, so that tarnishment issue is irrelevant for non-famous brands. So that's just something to be aware of.
And is that because a less famous mark is simply not widely known enough for its dilution to
Exactly, in terms of damage, in terms of tarnishment to the company, it's just less known to the public. So trademark dilution is only designed to protect what are considered famous brands, as opposed to trademark infringement, where you have the likelihood of confusion argument. Dilution and trademark infringement are just separate claims under the Lanham Act.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you again for coming on today, Pete. Really appreciate the insight. I know you've educated me on a few things here, and hopefully anybody that watches this can also know a little bit more about what's going on with the Satan shoes. Again, I will put up the email address and website address for Pete in just a second here. I'll put up mine. Go ahead, like and subscribe, and we'll see y'all next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it.